There you go.
You're all set.
Okay. Excuse me. Okay, I will call the meeting to order. Okay, hello, everyone. Do we have any remote participation on?
We do not have any remote participants today.
Okay, okay. And so and Brandy's gonna be late, so, but she'll be here. And so we'll start with the disposition of the minutes from the previous meeting. Okay. No. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes presented.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks again, Sia. We're doing such a job.
Okay. Announcements and public comments.
I have an announcement.
Okay.
I just wanted to welcome to JMRL and let the board get a chance to meet Audrey Parks, who is the new branch manager at the Gordon Avenue Library. She might be a familiar face to some of you. She just had to step down as a member of the Friends Library Board to join JMRL. Prior to that, she was the weekend manager at the Shannon Library at the University of Virginia. And prior to that was the assistant manager at New Dominion Bookstore down on the downtown mall, and former block director at WTJU. Very happy to have. How did you want to say hello and welcome aboard?
Well, I've been a lifelong patron of JMRL, so thanks for all you do. And I think, yeah, David, you covered all the big points, so it's kind of a dream job for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was the only one, right?
Correct.
Okay, we'll move on to the trustees continuing education. And that's the summer reading. Yeah, that was weird.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Megan Smead. I'm the Children's Services Manager here at JMRL. And I'm representing myself and Heather Pennick and Maggie Bond. We are all of the regional managers for the different age groups here at JMRL. So this is the presentation of summer reading, lasts all year. So it truly does last all year for as far as planning and implementing summer reading. In September, we look back at the previous summer. So we wrap up summer reading in August, and in September, right away, we are starting assessment. So the summer reading committee is made up of staff members from all of the different branches and all of the different service age levels. We look at the data, we receive feedback, we take a look at that and determine some of the things we think might be good changes for the next summer. The other thing that I in particular do is select next year's summer performers. So this summer, our performer series features all of these lovely folks here. But it truly, if we do not start selecting the people at that time, we miss out on some of the really great performers. In October and November, we place an order from CSLP, which stands for Collaborative Summer Library Program. It's, hi, come on.
Oh, I gotta figure out where to park my car, but I'm in the area.
I parked on the street.
Below street parking. I can't park on the street.
So CSLP is a group that the Library of Virginia belongs to and helps provide a bunch of different assets for us to use, including artwork, decor. What else do we have? Oh, and the CSLP manual, which is basically a guide of programming ideas that our staff can use to kick off their brainstorming for summer reading. So we order all of our swag, our bookmarks, our posters, our sticker giveaways. That all happens in October and November. And as I mentioned, we actually start booking the next performers. So literally choosing the dates, saying, are you free these dates? Start thinking about grant funding for those performers. So I also want to say thank you for approving the VCA grants that funded 3 of these performers this summer. And that is our fall as far as summer reading planning goes. In the winter, in January, we do another summer reading committee planning meeting. So we, at that meeting, discuss any changes we actually need to make to the challenge, brainstorm ideas for our prize tote, which was a new feature last year in summer reading. And in February, we create a brand kit in Canva so that all of the staff members can use those CSLP assets to make their flyers and again, sort of start figuring out what is the space going to look like? How are we going to advertise? And they'll start looking at that CSLP manual for their summer programming ideas. And this isn't meant to be legible, but this is all of the, like, these are each individual programs that come with a supply list, a step-by-step instructions, tips for adapting or changing programs, the recommended ages. So it really is a great resource, and we're very appreciative that the Library of Virginia supports us by being part of CSLP. So that's winter. And before we go any further, on our next slide is the patron experience. So just a little review of how summer reading works for a patron. They have two options in terms of participating. So they can participate on our Beanstack app, which you can use on a phone or on your computer. It's sort of like a gamified version of doing it. So you earn these little badges when you complete different tasks, and it'll notify you when you get a prize. And it's really simple to log your reading. You just type in the number of minutes you read in a reading session and hit enter, and you're done. However, some people like to be totally analog for summer reading, which I totally understand. You don't have to have any tech. You do not have to log into Beanstack. You don't have to touch it. You just get a paper challenge log, write down your number of minutes, and that's all you have to do in order to participate if you want to. Patrons earn prizes, number one, just for signing up. That was new last year and drove an insane number of signups for us. We actually had, so in 2024, we had about 3,000 registrations. Last year, we had 7,200 registrations. Wow. So yeah, like 140% increase, I think. So that's just for signing up. And then patrons can earn up to 2 prize books that they can select from any branch, including the bookmobile, and up to 5 grand prize entries. So every single branch has 3 grand prizes, one for each of our age groups, kids, teens, and adults. And you can earn up to 5 grand prize entries. So I think we're good to go. Yep. So the next one, this is when summer reading really starts to ramp up for us, is March. So as the regional managers, we create that Beanstack challenge and the paper challenge side by side. So the experience is the same. So you're doing exactly the same thing, seeing a lot of the same images. So this is what the paper log looks like. The inside is basically a calendar, and you just log your reading minutes on each day, total them at the end of the week. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later. But if you do it on paper, all of those numbers still need to get digitized. We still need to keep track in our Beanstack system so that we can report those numbers later on and use them for assessment, for creating our budgets, for ordering things in the future. So as we've got the challenge created, we also create all of our promotional materials, the things that go on the website, that go in the email newsletter, that, what else do we do? Go on social media. We email promotional things to the schools. And we also have to, in terms of getting our promotional things done, coordinate flyers. So the regional programs, the summer reading performer series I was showing you, I'll create a template and then the branches can customize as needed. The other big task in March is getting all of those prize things. So ordering our prize books and the prize totes. And for the grand prizes, they are customized at each branch. So the staff at the branches can send requests to Heather, Maggie, and I, and we coordinate ordering to get discounts, free shipping, all of those kind of things. Because if they all, end up paying individually, they'll be paying $9 for shipping here and $7 for shipping there, and it eats into our budget really fast. So we do that coordination. All right, let's go on to April. So this was our winner from Central last year of our children's grand prize. I actually used this photo. I visited the Stony Point Elementary School, And that's where this young lady goes, and the kids are like, I know her, she won. So it's great advertising. So we receive all of those items. We ordered the prize books, the totes, the grand prize items. So there's lots of physical sorting, packing, sending, and coordinating with the couriers to make sure we don't overwhelm them because they bring all of the items out to the branches. The next task is to create instructional and reference materials for staff. So sort of the behind the scenes how-to guide for staff, especially folks who work in circulation at the larger branches at Central and at Northside. They don't do as much of the, I don't know what to call it, the sort of admin behind the scenes side of logging books for patrons, but they still need to know how it works and be able to explain it to people. So we have some sheets that they print out and put at the desk. And also providing that summer performer series schedule to staff so they can kind of schedule around those programs for their in-branch programs. As I mentioned before, this is when we email the school principals with the promotional materials, and we've actually heard a lot of success from parents hearing, oh, it came home in my school newsletter, which is awesome. And then we also conduct school visits. So like I mentioned, staff go in either to classrooms or the libraries or cafeterias and talk one-on-one with students if we're tabling or do a big group presentation. And that is one of the things that I think really drives our sort of registration success as well. We hear a lot of the times a kid will come in and be like, you went to my school, or a parent says, my kid brought this home from school. How do we participate? So that's April.
You all recognize those socks? Anybody know what they are?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cards.
Card.
Yeah. Yeah. So in May, we're still doing school visits. We have some coming up this week. We send out the all staff info email. So just that review, getting ready for summer reading, the reminders where to find all the things in Google Drive that they're going to need. Conduct Beanstack training as needed for staff. The nice thing this year is the challenge format is essentially the same. It's logging reading minutes rather than trying to track individual books. So it's very similar. So not as much training as last time, but I'm always offering to give refreshers, and I appreciate when people take me up on that. We have a media plan created. So Dylan, our public relations specialist, and I are putting together a plan for social media, email newsletters, flyering them all of those sort of things. We have to enter we have our web calendar, and the back end of that, we have to enter in all of the performer series, the special teen summer programs, create the flyers for those programs. And this year there is one new element. We have a bingo challenge for teens. Teens have been our most challenging group to get participation from. You know, teens are busy. They've got lots of things going on. So we, in addition to that minute logging challenge that we have, we created a bingo card. Well, one of the YA staff made it, and all of the YA staff had input. And this is just an extra little incentive to get teens to participate. The other thing we did in May was get translations of our most important summer reading documents. So that includes that paper log for reading and our most comprehensive info flyer. So those are in Spanish and in Dari, and those will be accessible at the branches and on our website. June. Okay, so this is when summer reading kicks off. Summer reading starts June 1st this year, which is very satisfying. We head out to summer kickoffs. The regional staff try to support as many branches as we can at their summer kickoffs, usually staffing a registration table because you are busy all through the kickoff registering people for summer challenges. The kickoffs really also drive our registration. We see the numbers increase exponentially. We can see on the back end in Beanstack when people registered, which is really helpful, again, for distributing the tote bags, making sure we have enough staff at events. So like I said, managing additional prize tote distribution. It was very complicated last year because we had no idea how much demand there would be. I think we're a little more prepared this year. I also send out a weekly summer performer series email update to staff. So it includes all of the performer contact details, because I can't be at every single performance, but as the person who's been talking with that performer the whole time, I just want to make sure staff are totally prepared for whoever's coming. And in that email, they also get a link to our performer assessment survey. We spend the bulk of our children's regional funds from the Friends of the Library on the summer performer series. It drives a ton of our attendance during the summer. So we want to make sure that we're spending that money wisely. So there's I think it's like a 5 or 6 question survey. And it helps at the end of the summer in September, us do our assessment of, do we bring this performer back? Do we rotate them through maybe to another year, or is it somebody that we might pass on in the future? And I think our last step is the staff experience of the summer reading challenge. So one great thing is staff can participate too. We do actually have a staff grand prize drawing, which helps reward all of the effort that they make during the summer in terms of supporting the patrons who are participating. So like I said, all the participants in the summer reading challenge have to have a profile in Beanstack. That doesn't mean they have to touch Beanstack, but that's how we keep track. So staff have to either create an account for a patron unless a patron has already created their own account. Same thing for logging reading. Patrons can opt to use the Beanstack app, or they can log on paper, but then we have to take those paper logs and enter those minutes into Beanstack. Patrons can collect their prizes from any branch, but staff also have to go in and make sure they check off that bag. I was constantly reminding staff, check that they received their tote bag, because it's like, I've sent you enough tote bags. And, oh yeah, we have to check people off because you have to check 2 boxes. So it's a great platform for us to keep track. It does a really good job for us in terms of the assessment piece, which actually we can go to the next slide, because the next slide is looking at the final statistics. So we can break down by branch who participated. We can break down by age who participated. We can see when they signed up, when they actually did their reading, how many total minutes they read. And that actually helped us make some decisions for this year. We saw a lot of people read somewhere around 620 minutes last year. And that was because we set our challenge completion at 600 minutes. And so we were like, okay, if people are reading and then stopping, let's up the requirement. So we're going to see how that goes. You have to read 500 minutes for your first prize and 1,000 for your second, but then you get additional grand prize entries if you keep going. So we're going to see how that changes our results. The other thing that we do at the end is draw those grand prize winners and notify them. We leave the prize books available through the end of August, and then we take all of the feedback we got and start over again in September. So does anyone have questions?
I do.
Yes.
This kickoff is May 30th. Would their program start May 30th, or does it not officially kick off till June 1st?
So there's pre-registration. People can start registering on May 26th. They can't start logging reading until June 1st across the system.
But they can sign.
Do you go to all the schools in all the jurisdictions, or?
We offer to. We
Yeah.
don't always, sometimes we have to coordinate with their schedules to actually get in, but
that's great.
we hit most of them. Mhm. Yes.
So there's a bunch of obvious benefits of running a summer reading challenge like this in terms of just getting people to know about and engage in the library, getting them to read, building some sense of community. Right. And lots of libraries right across the country offer summer reading challenges. So my question, which may be a hard one, is, do we know anything about the short and long-term effect on like how much kids read of these summer reading programs? Like, are kids reading more a year later,
In terms of like reading scores in school?
Yeah, or maybe that, like, I'm just kind of curious, do we know anything about the impact, the impact of summer reading programs beyond?
Do they continue reading?
Yeah.
Or just
Sure.
stop?
Yeah.
Just run the summer.
Yeah, I don't have any studies in my back pocket, but I know that there is research. They actually recommend at least an 8-week long reading program in order to see benefits from it. I think just based on how long they have a summer break for. So ours goes for 10 weeks. Our summer performer series is usually 7 to 8 weeks, but the actual reading challenge is 10 weeks long. So it covers most of the school break for those kids. And there's a lot of, science of reading type of things it's not just benefits for kids as well. And that's why we gear it towards all ages, because there's a lot of, proven benefits in terms of sleep and, intellectual curiosity, critical thinking skills that have been studied.
And anecdotally, I know what we hear a lot from educators, both in the public schools, private schools, and homeschools, is that the engagement in this helps the summer slide so that when they go back
Yes.
into learning, they're quicker to pick up, right where they left off. But that's all anecdotal.
Yes.
You say that you try to visit every, or you offer to visit every school, which is awesome. What are you doing to reach out to homeschool communities? I know they're more distributed and there's not as many, there are fewer single points of contact. But my understanding is there are loose coalitions, and I'm curious if you can say what you're doing to reach those folks.
Sure. So it varies a little branch by branch, but a lot of branches have contact with many of those groups. They often use the library for some of their meetings. So a lot of that is sort of word of mouth, staff members there being like, hey, this is starting, let's get your group signed up, that sort of thing. We don't, like you said, the contacts often change from year to year, but there are some of those like coalitions. So whenever we have a contact, we reach out and get them coordinated. They seem to be some of the most frequent library users. So usually they're already like, we're good, we're signed up, which is great to hear.
And what are the dates at the different branches of the kickoff?
The kickoffs range, they start on May 28th at Nelson. Louisa and Central are on May 30th. Then that following week is chock full. I think the first is Green and Crozet. Northside is the 2nd. Gordon is the 6th. And when is Scottsville's? I think Wednesday morning. I don't remember the date.
They're all posted on our website.
Yes. I don't make people memorize that. I've just been typing those dates a lot.
I think one of the reasons I asked Megan to come today is because every year we'll ask her or Heather or Maggie to come and report on the success of the program. And I just wanted to give a little, crack open the backstage scenery so you all can see the effort that happens all year round to put this off. So last year's summer before last, I went to Megan and Heather and said, hey, our numbers were a little down from last year. Like let's think about this. And they really revamped the entire program and led to the most successful summer reading we'd ever had. So right now it's a well-oiled machine in year 2, but I'm sure there'll be things that they'll learn and tweak for next year as well.
I know, I've been to some of the kickoffs, but and they've been really great, but I didn't realize it was a whole year process.
Yeah.
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 Any other questions? Comments? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Megan.
Megan.
Thank you for your time. If you have any additional questions, don't hesitate to email me.
Okay. 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 Got that. Committee appointments and starting with the technology committee.
Okay, so yeah, and you're gonna actually present the enhancement thing.
I'm just going to show it now. This is the presentation.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's part of it. So there were really 2 major topics that we talked through. So I'll just give an overview and then we'll dig into the first one. So the first topic is the website enhancements timeline planning, which we had asked David to kind of come up with a sort of a roadmap for development of the website. And so, we've reviewed the second draft, maybe made some minor edits. And so we're going to show that roadmap as part of this technology committee report today and see if folks have questions or feedback. The other topic that we talked about is more of kind of an add-on to the meeting was around the artificial intelligence kind of strategy for the library. And so one piece of this was Sarah Elizabeth actually gave a brief presentation sort of showing the statistical reports for all the trouble tickets that she deals with regarding the website, and it's like a massive volume. And that's one of the things that we tried to hire a part-time position to sort of take some of that workload off of her, and we did not get that position created. So we had a little bit more discussion around, are there other ways to, like, take off some of the pressure on that sort of the more routine technology work. But one kind of cool thing is that the library now has, starting this summer, there's gonna be a summer interns who are exploring ways to automate some of Sarah's work using AI. And it's like part of the AI for Virginia project. That was cool. So they're going to be looking at Trumba and the tickets and seeing if there's some ways to automate some of the more routine stuff. That's going to be complementing the existing AI working group that's been working on guidelines to help staff and sort of guidelines for how to talk about AI with the public. The guidelines for staff include things like the use of AI. There's something about procurement there.
Yeah, I think the working group is going to work with the procedures working group to come up with some procedures for staff that are going to be pretty prescriptive about what tools to use,
Yeah,
and,
okay.
and identifying and procuring those tools
Right.
is happening as we speak.
Right. And it looks like you were going to get access for Enterprise Gemini for staff.
Potentially, yeah.
So that would give all staff the ability to kind of experiment with using AI in their work, kind of in a way that's sanctioned and secured by the library, right? And then we talked a little bit about, is there also the sort of possibility of creating sort of sandboxes for the IT folks so that they can try some of the different AI tools beyond that, like Claude, to sort of see what the potential is to kind of help them with their work. So that's kind of the overall report before we dig into the roadmap. Are there any questions around any
So
of
the
that?
summer intern, is that the one at Louisa or?
No, this is a program with the University of Virginia. It's called AI for VA. So it's like 2 letters, a number, and then 2 letters. We heard about it through the Charlottesville Albemarle Chamber of Commerce. They sent out kind of a solicitation for, are there any nonprofit or governmental agencies that would be interested in working with a series of interns from the university over the summer on an AI specific project. We applied and were accepted.
Oh, okay.
So we haven't identified who the kids will be yet, but we should know in the next few weeks.
Are they really interns or are they more consultants that work on their own and you kind of interface? My understanding from it was more of a project that they're.
It's a project. We're
Yeah.
going to give them a project, but they are interns in the sense that they are students at the university.
Yeah.
We might be getting credit.
They're going to get credit, right?
I think that's.
Whether it works or not, they're going to get.
They tried
They get
really
credit
hard.
for trying. Okay, but they're not necessarily posting up in the library facilities to do.
Yeah, I don't think that we will meet them in person. It'll be all virtual. You want to look at the
Yeah, so we could-
roadmap? Okay, this is in your handouts as well. On pages 4 and 5. So largely, this was the technology committee and Sarah Elizabeth and Jeremy and Fred Poole and I working on this, broken into 4 parts: evaluations, ongoing refinements, maintenance, and marketing review. And it just stretches those out over the timeline of the next 5 years here with different, kind of priorities on the second page. Depending on either when, there's some more information here about, these are the parts that make up our entire web services. So some information about contracts and when things are due and what the costs associated are, because that impacts some of the prioritization. So saying something is a low priority or a high priority is not necessarily that the board or myself don't think that's the most important thing to work on. It's just something else has to happen first. Like a big one, Drupal is the content management system that runs our website, and it needs to be upgraded to 2 versions basically, and nothing else can happen until that happens. It's the highest.
Yeah, so right, we wanted a roadmap, now we've got a roadmap. Any questions or suggested edits?
I'll just add a little color from my perspective. It's not necessarily important for every person in this room to understand every piece of jargon on the page.
Oh, boy.
But we're moved from, what this represents, is moving from sort of an ongoing, make general improvements to the website to kind of identifying and writing down all in one place. Here are the myriad pieces and parts of the site. They have different contract dates and renewal dates. And it's just kind of writing down, well, maybe we should reevaluate our calendaring system every so often. And this is just writing it down in one place, you know, when that's going to happen. A lot of that was already happening, I'm sure, but it just wasn't written down all in one place, so that there's sort of a master roadmap to reference.
I think also one thing that I took away from this technology committee meeting is again, recognition that our technology is in a constant change and flux. And that one of the things we're looking at is trying to make certain that we are not jumping ahead, but keeping abreast of, I guess would be a good way of putting it. Because the change is so rapid, and I think Peter was mentioning that, you know, there are points of extreme rapid change and then it slows down a little bit, and it's finding that sweet spot. So you're not having to expend a lot of money on something that is brand new and looks great, but hasn't had a proven merit.
I think the only other thing I'd like the board to recognize is that this does intersect at times with the strategic implementation plan that accompanies the board's 5-year plan, basically, especially on that last line there. But about the marketing review, there's an overall JMRL design and branding review that's already in the plan that group worked on. So this kind of goes in with that, slotted in around the same time. So it's not, this in and of itself isn't in a vacuum, but it should tail along with the rest of the board's strategic planning.
I feel like this gives us a sense of, you know, a rough sense of what's going to be happening when. It's not, and this, we talked about this in the meeting, it's not obvious ahead of time which things may require board involvement. Like there may, right, like there may be times when a particular contract needs us to approve something in the budget or what have you, but so there was no obvious way just to sort of build in, oh, and this is when the board needs to be involved. It's more going to be like we'll sort of see as we get there.
Can you, this is like Greek to me. I don't know anything about this, but can you just briefly just define what you find is, what Drupal is and MRBS is? I mean, just sort of.
I can just give like a
Yeah,
broad
that
level
would be helpful.
for these here, so that you're talking about on the second page of this document.
Yeah.
Yeah. So ViewFind, the Find It catalog is the public's experience using the library catalog, basically. So we have a classic catalog and then we have
What we see.
yeah, it's what you see when you go look for a book, basically. Right now, we're running ViewFind, which is an open source catalog, discovery layer that is from Villanova University, actually. That's where the VU comes from. So this is one of the primary points of contact that the public has with JMRL, is searching for books on our what they call a discovery layer, but it's a catalog, basically. Right. Drupal main is the content management system. It's just kind of the backbone of everything that our web presence sits on. Okay. The Hours app is something that Sarah has worked on, which is just a part of the web page that shows like when libraries are open, when they're closed, the messaging that appears at the top there. Right. MRBS is our meeting room booking system. Okay. So that is, you should, there might be one printed on the outside of this door. I'm not sure if Gordon does that, but it tells you what the rooms are and who's using them when. And so the public can view that and can ask to book a room, and then we'll use that system in order to book it for them. Mm-hmm. WordPress is the platform that hosts the JMRL blog. Yeah. Trumba is the
calendar.
The program calendar.
Oh,
So when you look on jmrl.org, you see a list of here's everything that's happening at JMRL today. That's an application called Truba that gets managed separately. And this was the thing that all last fall, the board was talking about needing support for Sarah Elizabeth for, because it's a ton of data entry.
yeah.
It's every branch sending in, our 50 programs this month or next month. The intranet is the staff-only webpage, basically, with procedures and forms and information for staff. And Civilpedia is on here. This was Charlottesville Tomorrow's local wiki that they then gave. We worked with the Historical Society in Albemarle, Charlottesville, because they wanted to get rid of it at Cedar Tomorrow, and they handed it over to JMRL. So right now we're paying for hosting for that.
Thank you.
Is that what you're looking for? Okay. There's probably similar keywords on here that they could use some context, but not jump out. Oh, the IA is information architecture. So on the top in the blue on the first page, it's the basically the form and the function. But that's more about the function. I'm sure Sarah's cringing right now. UX review is the user experience.
And another important part of all of this is, right, so there's all these components that are different software platforms and what have you. And then some of them are open source and maintained by staff in the library, which means that if something goes wrong, staff in the library have to fix it, right? And they may have helplines and ways to reach out for help, but like they have to figure out how do we get this back up and running, versus the products which have third-party support. And right, they may be more expensive, but when something goes wrong, you've got someone to call once you need to fix it. And so that's one of the juggling acts for the library, is the mix of open source and kind of third party.
That's the way that's supposed to work. Right?
Well, I was say
It's support.
it's kind of a double-edged sword, because the vendor stuff you can't fix yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And the open source you can,
Yeah.
if you and Claude can figure it out together. You
Yeah.
don't have to wait around for someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are definitely major pluses and minuses to
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
models. So.
But the one thing for just, when I bring up, like, I'm nervous that the IT folks are stretched, they're too thin. Right, like there are parts of this that if they go down, the library's effectively down, right? I mean, like, not necessarily for walk-in folks for every single thing, but for anyone trying to check from online, it's just, the catalog is just not working. You can't find a book or kind of put a hold or.
Yeah, I mean, the task that I was given was specifically about our web sources, but there are other IT things that are running JMRL. Our integrated library system went down. When was that? A week or two ago. Our whole network went down. Ting went down in the area, and so it shut down almost every function that people expect the library to do, except for a quiet place to read a book. Right? So definitely not just on the web side of the IT, but the entire.
So people couldn't check out books
They could, yeah. I mean, we had a lot of complicated workarounds to allow them to check out books, but they couldn't identify, like, is this book available? Or is my hold here? There's things like that. Like, we can, worst comes to worst, we'll write down your name and the barcode.
Phone
on the back
number.
of the book.
The Budget Finance Committee report.
So we met on April 29th at the Revere Central Library. And we looked at the proposed equipment fund, which you all have a copy of in your handouts. And made a few minor tweaks to it, back for some more description and so forth and so on. And we'd like to recommend to the board that you approve the equipment fund budget so that we can continue to operate. And there's a proposal perhaps for a motion later in the meeting to transfer up to $50,000 from the general fund to the library's equipment fund balance. It's called the library's equipment fund balance. So it's fun, okay? And we also discussed, thanks to Dave and Jerry for clearing this up again, and you had this in your minutes, I think, from last month. In year one, in order to make up for the lack of fines and fees coming in, year one being this current.
Right, starting in July.
Right, will be 50% from the JMRL fund balance, 25% from the Friends Endowment, 25% from state aid. Year after that, 33% from JMRL fund balance, 33% from the Friends Endowment, and 33% from state aid. And finally, in year three, 50% from the Friends Endowment and 50% from state aid. So we're having a sort of transition to what we think will be a more or less permanent solution to the equipment fund. And as you all will remember, we've also tried to move some of the things that were more operational out of the equipment fund, software contract and so. I think that was pretty much the gist of it.
And I don't think we were asking in the agenda, Alita, for any vote on the equipment budget today. It will just be appended to the full budget to be voted on by the board next month. So if you have questions, now's the time. If something needs to change there, it needs to change before your June meeting.
And these needs basically are identified by the branches who come in.
Yeah, the branch managers put in requests that come to the library administration team, and then myself and Jerry and Jeremy go through and review them.
Yeah. And similarly, tell me if I'm confusing I bet there's two similar things. And, you know, there was also sort of requests for funding various projects or initiatives from the Friends Family of Funds. That's a separate process from what this is.
Yeah. They're due for the branch managers at the same time, so they get confused in that mind too. And then sometimes when we're reviewing them, Jerry or I will say, you know, this might be more appropriate here or there. That's more of a project-based thing. Let's ask the Friends to support.
So there's some area of overlap potentially, but there's some loose algorithm for what belongs in which.
Yeah, and then this board will see, so the advisory committee for the Friends of the Library Family of Funds will meet once both the Friends Board and the Library Board have new officers for next year. Because it's the president and vice president of each body and myself. So they'll meet, they'll approve a suggested, you know, here's the money we'd like to ask the Friends Family of Funds for next year. And then that has to come back to this board because it's technically a grant. So this board will approve that funding. So you're going to get to see all of those requests individually as well. And that will also include, as Tony mentioned, some of my get funding for equipment.
Going to old business, fiscal year 27 budget update.
Okay, just to keep you all in the loop on our jurisdictional partners timing, 4 out of 5 of the fiscal year 27 budgets have been voted in as expected. So the last one is Nelson County, which votes in June. So far funding is included in all 4. We're expecting full funding from Nelson. I did meet with Alita and I went and met with their board and they indicated full funding was there. So next month, it's important that there's a quorum for this board in order to vote in funding for fiscal year 27. And your handouts will include the entire budget, including the equipment budget that's in there today. About the next one. So the last piece that is kind of a little bit of an uncertain is state aid. We have an estimate from the Library of Virginia that we use for all this budgeting, but it requires a budget from the state. And of course, the state has not passed the budget. It's not entirely unusual that they haven't passed the budget. This is a little later than most years. They're still in negotiations, but we anticipate an amount that's already worked into the budget here. And if there's a last minute change, it will be reflected in your budget. If not, then it will carry over into next year and we'll figure it out at that point. Also, similarly, once we get that data from the state, we'll update the infographic that JMRL has been using to explain funding to stakeholders. You can see the current version on jmrl.org about, just to remind everybody, this is the Sankey chart that staff worked on that Mike was very helpful with. Thank you, Mike. There's the funding infographic for fiscal year 26, and it'll be updated once we have all the final numbers for next year about the flow in and flow out funding.
there's gonna be some complicated smaller ones now with the,
Yeah, it's gonna get a little more complicated than it has been. You're gonna have to get more colors.
Yeah.
we have to advance the branding review.
In order to
get more colors.
Yeah. That's all I have to report, though, just that 4 out of 5 of the jurisdictions have voted in their final budgets for next year, and the next one is next month.
The fine-free metric space baseline.
Okay. So more than anything, this is a reminder to the board of the work that the working group, the fines and fees working group, finished up last year, reported to the board in September when the board voted to go fine-free for next year. I'll remind the library board that we're talking about fines only, not fines and fees. I think maybe the language that we've used has gotten loose on that, but fees are things like I damaged the book or the book is lost, and those are still going to be implemented, or a fee to copy something or a fee to use the fax machine. We're still going to charge fees at JMRL, just no more overdue fines specifically. So the working group identified 5 areas that they wanted to collect baseline data for so that they could review 6 months to a year later at some point after the fine-free move on July 1 to say, here's how the change impacted this whatever thing we're measuring here. Of course, all of our circulation information is on a roller coaster because last year we turned on the automatic renewals for the first time. So if you look in your monthly reports at circulation numbers, they're way higher than they were last year for every month, month over month, because of the addition of automatic renewals. So we have the number of each automatic renewal that we can pull out to kind of get a baseline, but it's not true because we don't really know how many of those would have been renewed if there was not an automatic renewal. So last year established a new baseline for CERC data moving forward, and we're going to establish another new baseline in fiscal year 27 that then should be steady for a while. Okay, 5 areas though. So I'm going to show you the data that is year to date, basically. So starting from last July to now, this is kind of where we are for each of these metrics, and this is what we're going to look at down the road. So on-time check-ins and returns. Let's see if I have some notes here too. You can see the blue here is, maybe you can't see. The blue is more than 1 day early. So the majority of items, it's 83.4% were returned more than 1 day early in this period, last July through now. We were snapshotting this data monthly, just kind of scraping it once a month. The green slice here that doesn't have a label is 1 day late. And the other 2 that don't have labels are 8 to 14 days late and 15 to 21 days late. So the bottom line, though, is between this big blue chunk here, the red on time, and then the 1 day early, almost 90% of items are returned on time at JMRL now, or for this fiscal year. That's been the pattern. Okay, only 2% of materials are getting to the build category, which is more than 3 weeks late. So right now, 2% of things are getting to that. So this is something to keep an eye on moving forward. Does that change? Just stop me if you have any questions throughout.
Is this just for materials and not for?
This is for physical materials.
Not
Yes,
digital.
thank you. Yeah, not for digital materials. Thank you
So
for
with
making
that, not charging the fines, more than 21 days in the billing, we're going to bill the person for the book or for the.
Yes.
whatever.
which is what this is the current practice too. You get a bill, you get an email, or eventually you get a mail bill saying, hey, you owe this much money for this book. And hold wait times. This is the one I'm anticipating that members of the public will have the most strong feelings about effectively. You can see this is the average and the median here. This data is not the prettiest data because it does include some holds that are outliers, like things that are kind of like gremlins in our catalog, where some of it is staff is responsible for, like our, Brittany might be waiting for a CD that's been checked out of a CD set and she's had it on hold for a year. It's on a shelf waiting for it to come back. There are some things which I think skew this longer than it really is. But rather than clean the data, we figured those things will still be dirty moving forward. And if not, we have the data to go back and take out the outliers. So you can kind of see that the average is around 126 days, and the average of the median is around 50 days for materials to come in. So we want to keep a close eye on what the changes are here with the new system in place. Okay, collection turnover rate is something that we were already collecting. It's just dividing the, I'm gonna massacre this too. The physical materials, the circulation by the total items, right? So we have this many physical circ, went out, checked out this many times. Here's how many items we have. So how many times did each item go out throughout the year, basically? There you go. It's a better way to say it. So you can see how high it was pre-COVID, and then big dip during COVID there in 2021, and then kind of leveling out there at around, for the last 5 years, or last 4 years, around 2.5, 2.6. Okay. And largely we saw a tremendous shift in our patterns with increased digital usage right after COVID. Okay, differential and blocked cards. So this is a snapshot of this month, actually. This is not, this is all July through May, sorry. The chart is a snapshot of just May there, and it just shows you where the people are, basically. So over the last 3 years, the actual circulation usage, the patterns were Albemarle patrons check out 60% of materials, Charlottesville 24%, Green Louisa about 6%, Nelson about 4%. So that's like how much gets checked out regionally. So Albemarle is fairly underrepresented here in terms of how many, their use of the collection. They have less blocked cards than in other areas. Louisa is overrepresented. There are more blocked cards in Louisa than circulation patterns. You think. So at any rate, we're looking at around 5.7% of our cards at any given time over the last 10 months or so are blocked for not returning materials or for overdue funds. And the last one is differential and new cards. So this we track on the calendar year, basically, and you can kind of see like what the year looks like. So that big bump is thanks to Megan and Heather and the crew there every year. Summer reading starts, and every year there's a huge bump in May, June, July, and then it kind of tails off into the quietest month, which is generally December there. So I think the only thing I wanted to say about this is that my personal opinion is that most of these metrics, I don't think they're going to change dramatically. The only one that potentially could change would be the number of blocked cards. That should, in theory, go down. If the others don't change, that's still okay. It's showing we have not had a negative impact on these data points, basically. But time will tell. We'll see.
The rules for blocked cards, so you get blocked if you have too many fines?
Yes, you can, both things. You can get blocked for having too many overdue fines currently.
Which will go away, but then.
Which will go away as these new rules go into effect. And you can get blocked for holding things overdue for too long. So if they're overdue for 3 weeks, I think, then you can't check out. When I say blocked, we're not facial recognition scanning you coming into the library. Your card won't work to check out more materials, including digital materials at that point. If you're blocked, you won't be able to log in to use the computers at the library. You won't be able to check out digital materials. You won't
Until you take care of
it. Yeah.
Whatever was on your record.
And what will happen after July 1 is that they will just have to be returned.
It's disappointing. I thought maybe when they came to the library doors, the bells went off.
Or there's pictures.
Or the thing goes down.
The most wanted. Sorry.
Maris, you can talk to my daughter in Northern Virginia. She'll tell you all about
Block card.
just and the scramble to find.
I was just curious what the rules were. Yeah, I know. Because, in terms of, I assumed it was if you didn't return a book, and that's why people are always still feeling guilty 30 years later. About
it just makes you really go and find the book and bring them back.
So at this point, a bill would be generated. If you can't find the book, you can pay the fee and reinstate your.
Do we block children's cards?
Yes, we block cards if they don't get the materials back in.
It'd be interesting to have some of that data in terms of percent percent in terms of percent of population.
You mean age group?
Demographic data, it would be, yeah. So my goal today was to remind the board of, some of the decision making that went into this when you all voted last September, and then the things that we're keeping an eye out for as we make this change. I mentioned last month, the focus has been on the financial end, which the budget committee has discussed, and there's a motion coming up for you all to take kind of the first step there. And now it's going to be kind of public education. We're preparing our patrons for here's this change. And then after that, it's going to be maintenance. Like how's this working? Do we need to tweak the length before we block cards because things aren't coming back the way that they used to? Do we need to change other things, or does the board need to discuss?
I would also be interested in what the metrics are, and I don't know whether it's able to dig into this, but in a rural county, and as someone who grew up in a rural county, the library is not always as reachable for kids, and so I wonder if we've had kids have fees or whatever because nobody's been able, or fined because nobody's been able to get back to return.
Of course, we haven't had juvenile fines for many years now. We don't charge overdue fines specifically.
Right, but in terms of things being, what did you said, three weeks
weeks,
or whatever. I'm just curious.
We showed the data that showed, an overrepresentation of black cards in Louisa, which is.
And I would just be curious to be dig into that, what's going on, and I don't know if is that something that we, I know at a certain point we talked about having other places to have people get books or return books.
In Louisa.
In Louisa, there's one in the town of Louisa.
Yeah,
Walgreens.
Yeah.
and in Nelson,
In Nelson, you can return in Nellis Ford.
Yeah.
You also have the bookmobile.
And now we have the bookmobile that's going
Yeah.
to be in every
Yeah.
jurisdiction starting next year. So, and these are trends to look out for, where we need to provide services and what are those services we need to provide.
so this is our baseline.
This is where we are today, last week.
Yeah.
Now,
We'll see how
on
June
the
goes.
block cards, okay, so somebody's got this book under their bed or something, and they haven't brought it back, and so the card gets blocked, but do they know it? Because they might not have gone back to the library to try to get it out.
You might get a letter.
We will notify in the ways that we have to get in contact with you. So email, if you're signed up for email notification, in the case of a child, it could be the child or the parent or both. Then that's more aggressive. You get a lot of messaging. We changed that for the automatic renewals last year. We added some messaging electronically. So you get don't quote me on this. I'll get Brittany to give me the It's 2 messages before something is due, and then shortly thereafter up until it's blocked. When it gets to that point, we will mail you something if we haven't gotten it back. So you can also sign up for telephone notification. So if those 3 things didn't work, then you're not going to find out until you come back to use the services. We're not going to come to your house.
But I turned that in.
Well, that's a conversation that happens almost every day at every circulation desk. And generally the conversation is something between the staff and the patron. It's something along the lines of okay, you go look in I'm going to look in every nook and cranny here at the library. I know sometimes things get caught in the book return. Sometimes they're misshelved. I'm going to go check all those places. You go look in all those places at your house, and I'll tell you that
Under the seat of
the car.
behind the couch, things like that. Usually it's under the seat.
Behind the radiator.
Couch. That when the book is able to be renewed, you'll get one notice approximately 3 days beforehand. Your due date's coming up, and your book is automatically renewed from that due date for the next 3-week period. If you're at the final renewal, you'll get a notice 2 days, 2 times. You'll get the first one, that's normal. Hey, your book is due on this date. Then you get the in capital letters. Your book is due tomorrow.
Really do.
So, having tested that.
None of the board members would have had an overdue fee, so we don't have to worry about that.
So one question we'd asked when we talked about this presentation is how frequently do we want to see this information? For me, my answer would be for this first year, I'd like to look at it at maybe at the 6-month mark and the 1-year mark. And then at the 1-year mark, decide what to do going forward, probably 1-year intervals after that. That's what I'm interested in.
Seems reasonable. That we're collecting the data every month, so it's available whenever the board wants to review it. So,
Yeah, but I want to be prudent in the first year to make sure we're
looking at it.
doing due diligence on the metrics.
Yeah, we went through a lot of work to come up with these metrics.
Yeah, and collect it, so.
I mean, we're hoping that there's gonna be more people getting library cards and more circulation, because if you're not so concerned about fees, then hopefully you're gonna use library more, so. It'd be interesting to see those metrics as well.
Clinical term for fear of getting a library card because you can get charged.
Okay. The motion.
No, I was just making up a word, but either echo.
The phobia.
Yeah, potential motion to, excuse me, transfer funds to equipment fund balance, and there's a motion, potential motion already here.
I'll read it.
Yes, okay.
Move that JMRL transfer up to 50,000 from the library's general fund balance into the library's equipment fund balance, and authorize the expenditure of that funding for the support of library services.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. There's
Someone
nobody.
needs to rebrand the fund.
Okay, it has passed. That motion has passed. Okay. Okay, this one's okay. Nominating committee. Yeah. Martha and Peter have graciously
Been voluntold.
to be our nominating committee. And so they will do diligently go through all of our interviewing everybody, right? To see who would be, we have the president and the vice president, so. Okay.
And do we sort of share like what's happened so far? Or?
Well, if you like.
Well, so Brandy had indicated an interest in being president, and that interest still exists. A year later. And then Martha said that she would be interested in serving as vice president. So my guess is the way it works is like, right, we should sort of make, right, anyone on the board who's interested should feel free to contact Martha and or I to let us know of that interest. We do at least have one person with interest in each position at this time. So we will not be aggressively recruiting you.
You have to aggressively talk to them, yeah.
Talk to them.
Okay. Library director report.
Okay, again, I apologize that the audit did not get its own agenda item. It came in after the agenda went out to everybody. It's almost time to start our next audit. It's time to start the next audit. So the final version came in right after you got your agenda. This is the latest this report has ever been delivered to my knowledge. JMRL was close to having to ask for a waiver from the state library in order to receive state aid. Having an up-to-date audit on file is one of the requirements. State asks for that by December 15th of every year. So we received our audit in May 11th, perilously close to the point at which our new audit should be starting. So the audit for the library system is part of the city of Charlottesville's contract. They're our fiscal agent. They have a contract out for an audit that also audits JMRL. We have delivered feedback on this timeliness, both to the city and to the auditor. Currently, the auditor is under contract through the fiscal year 27 audit, so 2 more cycles. We've had some conversations with them about making this happen in a more timely fashion because, you know, most years we have most of what we need in order to have the audit done sometime in the summer or early fall. And that generally is when in the past it got done. So.
And what's their reasoning for such a late return?
They're very busy. Legitimately, that was the reasoning that we got. So. Okay, so I'm not an accountant, but the three things that I look for when the audit comes in, I'll share with you all. Just, we already know most of these things anyway due to our own fiscal management, but it's good to be confirmed in the audit. So the first one is on page 17 of the audit, if you're following along at home, which is page 28 of your handouts. And it's the reversion to participating localities. So it says whether or not JMRL had more than 5% of its operating budget in the general fund balance, at which point we would have to give funding back to our 5 jurisdictions. It says there were no accumulated funds in excess of the 5% limit as of June 30th, 2025. So again,
And that's on page,
that is on page 17 of the audit and page 28 of your handouts. I don't know if I have page numbers for all three of these.
Yeah,
The third one.
note 5.
Yeah.
So we knew this, thanks to Jerry's financial management. We already knew that, but it's been confirmed that, we didn't add anything wrong. Second, we need this audit in order to determine the actual final number for the equipment fund balance. So every equipment fund report that you all have gotten in your monthly reports since July has been an estimate because we didn't have this audit that says, yes, that's the correct amount. We've been operating under Jerry's calculations since last July, but luckily they're always correct. So the amount was $357,474 at the end of last June. So before we started buying the equipment budget things that were adopted by this board. Finally, we're looking for the statement that no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies were uncovered during the audit. This is at the very end, page 34 of the audit, 45 of the handouts, and it reads, during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. But then they always right after that says, that doesn't mean they don't exist. But again, I'm not an accountant, but those are the three things that I'm looking for because those in my mind all trigger actions on our part. If we had to give money back to any of our jurisdictions, if there was a significant difference between what we had calculated in the equipment fund and what the auditors found, and whether or not there was some sort of deficit in internal controls. So as always, we can certainly have this firm come and give a presentation to the board if the board likes.
Will only delay the next year.
right,
That's why they're very busy.
because everybody else wanted one.
At any rate, if the president or any board members or the new president would like to have a report from the auditors, we can reach out. But it is true that it's time to start the next one. Okay, some folks in the room were admiring the mural here that went up last summer. And I'm happy to report that the Mods Ave Computer and Maker Lab at Central is going to be closed during the first week of June, getting a new mural from the same team that did this last year in the mezzanine at the Central Library. So it's a local artist and a team of teenagers that worked on this. I think it took about, I'm looking at Audrey, but she wasn't here. It took about a week last year. Yeah, so the goal is to have it done in a week this year.
And their signatures are right.
Yes, down at the bottom, right.
What is the theme?
I believe the theme they're looking at is space
Oh,
for the lab. I think they're looking at a space theme.
Space.
Outer space.
Okay. Cool.
Last week, there was a kickoff party at Northside for the Inkling Teen Zine, which is a collection of creative works by teenagers that are patrons at JMRL. They had over 150 attendees come. The booklets are printed on demand, so I didn't grab one for each trustee. But at your favorite branch, you can pick one up. It was a very lovely event, and all the families were very excited to have their teenagers' works in there. Finally, I was pleased to see that the Friends of the Library family of funds that we've been talking about were highlighted in the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation's impact report. So I got mailed a physical copy of that, but you can also go to the CACF's website, cacfonline.org, under impact, and it's got their impact for the region, the funding, and they have a whole blurb about support for library services, which was very nice. And the last thing I was going to report was JMRL's joining this AI4 VA, but we've already spoken about that. We should know pretty soon who our contacts are there, and I'll report out to the board. Project. That's all I have to report.
Okay. Okay, so other matters. Any others? No other matters. Future agenda items.
The quorum is needed for next month.
Yes.
June 22nd at Northside.
Seem uniquely prepared to be the president.
Detail oriented.
Earlier, so.
Excellent. Excellent, because there's gonna be a final vote on the fiscal year 27 budget, so that'll be on the agenda. There's gonna be a vote for officers for fiscal year 27. That'll be on the
There'll
agenda.
be a policy committee meeting and report.
Policy committee report.
We might have a new board member.
Yes.
The city of Charlottesville is appointing a board member tonight, barring any last minute changes. So there should be a new board member. Thank you.
Oh,
Um,
I kind of got reappointed.
You kind of did.
You got, yes, she was interviewed and everything.
I kind of did.
You kind of did.
Well, the letter that I received had my name and address on it, but the name on the letter was different than my name. So I guess it was a very busy week.
I can confirm that the county is expecting your service. We also will have a vote on the fines and fees schedule, which is changing dramatically in July, so that language will be updated, and the board will have something to vote on. And it's in your calendar that I'll present my director goals for next fiscal year as well. Busy meeting.
Yep.
Will you be able to do kind of a quick overview of the plan for PR for the fines and fees?
Sure, I mean, at that point, it's gonna be in high gear,
Yeah.
but yeah, I can
Just let us know
explain.
what's going on, yeah.
Hearing talk of videos. It's all the rage now. Yeah, great.
Okay. It's gonna be a busy meeting. Now we're ready for our closed session.
Can I just remind the board of how this is in theory gonna work?
Don't we have to close the session?
We will.
Yes, yes, so-
Logistics of how,
And then he has to leave.
And then he has to get out of here.
yeah, everybody has. to- So there needs to be a motion to start the session, basically, and when that happens, the rest of us will leave the room. I'll turn off the audio for the Zoom meeting and put up a slide that just says the board's in closed session there. And then when you're done, come and get me, and then the board needs to read this entire certification of the closed session that just says that, you know, here's the code that we use in order to go into closed session. We promise that we only talked about the things that were addressed there. And then Alita will record all the yes or no votes. So we're gonna go into closed session, and then when you come back, you're back in open session. So Sierra and I will need to come back in the room, and then you'll have to have, you know, whatever motion or movement the board needs to do, have that happen, and then close the open session.
And where are you going?
I'm gonna be next door in the north room.
You could take a break.
Yeah. Come knock or have somebody text me.
Coaching it. And in particular, any business items that might be generated by the closed session would then be actually enacted during the reopen session. So that's part of the purpose for that.
Okay, so we're going to
And you need to turn off recording.
Yeah.
leave the recording.
First, we have to close it.
Yeah, first you're gonna close it, but we leave the recording and it just has no audio and just says the board's in closed session for the entirety. But you are correct, thank you. We need, can you see the motion at the top here?
So somebody has to read that. Okay. The motion is that the library board go into closed meeting pursuant to Code of Virginia, section 2.2-3711, subsection A.1, to discuss the performance evaluation and employment contract of the library director.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you are in closed session and we
Okay, wait a minute, no.
Peter's-
Peter's not here.
Here we go.
Okay. Yeah, it's right there. Well, I've got it in my hand. Certification of closed meeting. Whereas the Jefferson Madison Regional Library's Board of Trustees has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to a affirmative recorded vote in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2 3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this Jefferson Madison Regional Library's Board of Trustees that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Jefferson Madison Regional Library Board of Trustees hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meetings requirements by Virginia law was discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies. And only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting was heard, discussed, or considered by the Jefferson Madison Regional Library's Board of Trustees. Vote.
I think you want to do a roll call vote and either aye or nay, and then you record everybody's name under either aye.
Okay,
Okay, we sign it.
It can be recorded. It doesn't.
okay,
Alita has to sign it.
yeah, so, okay, so, Brandy,
Aye.
Peter,
I,
Martha,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Meredith,
I,
Alita. Aye. Okay, I think,
And
Ann. I'm sorry, Ann. Okay,
so do you have to have the number?
so that everybody's eyes.
Everybody's aye. So if
It's,
you sign it, we can fill the name in after that. We've got
Okay.
everybody's recorded.
And there was no absence.
You're all done. That part.
So I put my L because I signed with an L too, but it doesn't have an L over here.
That's fine.
I don't think this is going to court.
No.
Worst scam ever.
I move that we adjourn.
I do not agree with that.
Okay.
So you say, would I make this motion now or?
Yes.
So I'll make the motion to renew David Plunkett's contract for 1 year with a 2% raise.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any negatives? No. Well, you get a 2%.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Appreciate this board very much.
Now I can make the motion that we adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So do you need us to write our names?
No,
You're just gonna get it from the front.
Thank you, David.